Friends, we are gathered here today to say goodbye to the DCEU. For 10 years, this franchise has both thrilled and disappointed us. But throughout all of the highs and the lows, the many lows, we could always count on the DCEU to deliver superhero content that wasn't afraid to take a few chances. Because while the MCU was more successful in making a coherent universe-spanning story, they did choose to play it safe. And you gotta hand it to WB for letting some of these movies take some pretty wild swings. But now with James Gunn taking the helm and soft rebooting the franchise, we find ourselves at the end of the road with the DCEU. And that knowledge was front and center in my mind walking into Aquaman the Lost Kingdom. I know it's a pessimistic way to approach it, but you can't help but feel kinda apathetic to a universe that's on the verge of getting scrapped. Now I did have fun with the first Aquaman. While it was straddled with a bloated script, along with some pretty bad dialogue and a romance lacking any chemistry, I think that James Wan ended up bringing a lot of energy and creativity to the direction of that movie. It's not one of my favorite entries from the franchise, but it's far from the worst. And that brings us neatly along to Aquaman 2. Here, we find our aquatic hero trying his best to balance both his duties as a king and a father. But when his old enemy Black Manta returns with a newfound power, Arthur must embark on a perilous quest to stop him. Along the way, he'll have to team up with his half-brother turned nemesis Orm, and together they will go to the depths of the known world to face an enemy who is ready to claim his vengeance, even if it means decimating all of mankind to do it. Right from the start, I can say that it feels like this movie was reshot to all hell. There are multiple points where extremely important events are quickly summed up in montages. We are told about important characters dying off-screen in voiceover. We are told that global disasters are occurring through haphazardly assembled news segments, which honestly gave me major Cloverfield Paradox vibes. Yeah, remember that random sci-fi movie that was edited to suddenly become part of that weird Cloverfield series? Well, that same technique they used to shoehorn in all that interdimensional alien crap is used here. Only this time it's used to tell us about some plague that's afflicting Atlantis. We never actually see the effects of the plague, just as we never see any of the global disasters hitting the surface world. It's all told to us through exposition, particularly exposition that's delivered by this random council that Aquaman has to work with. They were never mentioned in the first movie, but just by looking at the awful CGI used in these scenes, they were all probably last-minute additions. Oh yeah, and speaking of Aquaman, he kinda sucks. Jason Momoa is doing what he can to add his trademark charisma, but it feels like this guy lost half of his IQ points in between movies. He never knows what's going on, and is constantly having things explained to him by other characters. Like, bro, haven't you been like the king for a year? It's not that he hasn't grown, it feels like he's regressed. He's a king, but he hates doing it, and he never really leaves that mode, even by the end. He has a family he supposedly loves, but these characters seemingly drop in and out of the movie the whole time, so I never really felt anything for them. Nicole Kidman was finally reunited with her long-lost husband at the end of the last movie, but she's never there, and there's no reason given for that. Amber Heard's also in the movie. Kind of. The cameras are never on her for more than 3 seconds. Like, maybe they were hoping if the audience was passively watching, they wouldn't even notice she's there. But the real star of Aquaman 2 was director James Wan. He was the best part of the first movie, and he was the best part of this one. It is quite evident that all of the film's most creative ideas came right out of this man's mind. From swashbuckling action with creative camera angles to moments of fun horror. There were also a number of distinct, colorful locations that helped make the adventure actually feel like an adventure. All of the sets and visuals looked cool for this, and added a light, pulpy tone to everything. All of these imaginative ideas give this a more distinctive flair than most of the other recent Marvel movies. The actor who fit this vision the best was Patrick Wilson. I liked seeing him return as King Orm, and I do think that he had great chemistry with Momoa. Far better chemistry than what he had with Amber Heard in the last movie. The problem is that it sadly isn't as developed as it should have been, and it's all in service of a revenge plot that feels all too familiar. As I stated before, Black Manta is the main bad guy, but the script chooses to take his character in a direction that felt kind of unnecessary. The dude already had a solid motivation that was set up. You don't have to add a whole different layer involving ancient mythology and a ripoff of the Fallen who's just chilling in dollar store Mordor. So as you can tell, Aquaman 2 was a mess. But if I'm being real with you, it is far from the complete disaster that the early reaction said it was. James Wan did what he could to give us a big, dumb Saturday morning cartoon with some fun action and creative ideas. But sadly, studio-mandated reshoots and sloppy pacing really hold this movie back. The words that come to my mind are wasted potential. Heck, the big lesson I took away from watching this is that I hope James Gunn replaces Andy Muschietti with James Wan as the Batman Brave and the Bold director. Guy's got a lot of fun ideas, just give him a decent script to work with. And maybe make Patrick Wilson that version of Batman. I don't know, let me cook, but I'm getting off track. This movie is sloppy. Its pacing is wonky. Its protagonist is suffering from the dumb hero syndrome. But I'd be lying if I said that it was a complete piece of crap. To me, it's a dumb, fun little adventure that I'll probably never think about again. Which, as a conclusion to the DCEU, is kinda sad, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. So this string's for you, Jimmy Gunn. Here's hoping the next DC adventure is better. It's not like the entire fate of comic book movies and the studio are riding on it. I'm gonna give Aquaman The Last Kingdom a C-.